But but I only did my 20 minutes, and so I'm trying to think, well, what am I going to talk about?
You have so many experiences.
Yeah, no, that's true, but you know how it is. You want to make a theme out of it, you know, make something relevant to others.
Why can't the theme just be Srila Gurudev and as things come to you
Well,
about that one theme?
Yeah, but
Rather than
you have, in order to see the sun, you need the blessings of the light of the sun. And so I've been trying to think, but I'm going to say this. So before I begin, Om Adhanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurlamilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadare Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Manupeta Apeta Kritam Dvapayano Virahaka Tada Ajuhava Putreti Tamayataya Tadaro Vinejus Tam Sarabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam
I guess I can't be
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so this was not very loud, so now I can hear it better. So if I just turn it up, you can hear him louder. So anything that's plugged into this is what this is controlling. So I don't know how you're planning on extracting the audio from whatever the presentation is, like if she's going to pipe it out to the system. I don't know anything about that. If she's probably done it a million times, but I don't. Oh, you've never actually connected it directly. That's interesting because I only see these kinds of chords, and until Dhananjaya gets here, I won't be able to answer.
Under our exalted Rupa, Nuga, Varga, Abhisamba Vaishnavas, and Vaishnavis. So, again, addressing this idea of glorifying Sri Guru, we had the opportunity to be in the presence of Srila Gurudev for many, many years during both Vrindavan Parikram and Navadvip Parikram. But particularly in Vrindavan Parikram, this is a time when there was the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj's guru, Bhaktivedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and we got to hear him glorify, offer his own Pushpanjali. And then there was a period just after Anukut where there were what we used to call 3 days of separation, where there was the disappearance days of, on one day it was the disappearance day of both Srila Vaman Maharaj and Srila Trivakram Maharaj, and then the next day was the disappearance day of our Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Padasto Padasasisima Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And after that was the appearance day of Bhakti Sri Rupa Siddhanti Goswami Maharaj, one of the prominent preachers during the time of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and the guru of Rasananda Prabhu, now Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Maharaj. So 3 days were devoted. 2 days particularly, we didn't even go on parikram. We just stayed and heard glorification. And that was very instructive, very instructive. The first time I ever heard, I attended Vrindavan Parikram was in 1997, and that was shortly after meeting Srila Gurudev in the San Francisco Bay Area, just a few months later, and got to witness the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, and Gurudev, he orchestrated the whole thing. He was doing the whole thing. And throughout the day, he was having different disciples, you know, my God brothers and God sisters, speak on Srila Prabhupada. And then Gurudev himself spoke and did the artik. And it was so moving. It was so profoundly moving. Sometimes in even our beginning practice of bhakti, we've heard this discussed, we get overcome with some emotion, some feelings, some strong sentiments that are unlike anything we've experienced in our previous life. And these are called a semblance or a shadow of what the full and real spiritual sentiments are, an abhas. But that abhas is very powerful, and it stimulates us towards, it increases our enthusiasm, increases our faith that yes, this practice, it's real, it works.
Jai.
So sometimes when devotees experience emotions, others might say, oh, this is all sahaja. You shouldn't experience emotion. But the Atma experiences emotion. What we want to avoid is emotion that's self-centered, that's drawing attention to ourselves, that's based on our own enjoyment rather than a kind of emotion that makes us filled with appreciation and love for our gurus, our Guru Varga, and the Vaishnavas. When we have those kinds of sentiments, then we know, okay, this is good. This is good. I want more. I want more. And that was certainly the experience of that first parigram and that time when Gurudev was doing the artik. Even though I'd been away for so long from regular practice and association of devotees, when by the time Gurudev was doing the artik, I was blubbering like a baby, I had to run to the shower and wash my face because I was ashamed. Didn't want anyone to see me, I was a sahaja. That's how I used to think. But don't think like that. So, in later years, after some practice, and some greater understanding, we would hear Gurudev and also hear his the disciples of Srila Maharaj glorify him on the day before Srila Prabhupada's day. And they had been, devotees like Tirtha Maharaj and Sri Maharaj and others, and they had been under the guidance and instruction of Srila Gurudev for many, many, many years. And they really knew how to glorify one's Guru. And what I could distill from that, and from hearing Gurudev himself, was that when you get that opportunity, there are good ways to do it and not so good ways. A lot of times when new devotees do it, they start talking about, oh, I used to be this, I used to be that, and I would run around here and I'd run around there, and then one day I met my Guru, and then it goes back to them and their own history, and and it goes on and on and on, and occasionally Gurudev gets interjected, about how he saved me. It's not about that. Some of that can be there, a little bit, to set the stage. But really, when Gurudev would glorify his Guru, he wouldn't really even tell very much about his past history, his birth, his childhood, and all of that. That's contained in the biography, because it has to be there. But in the time of glorification, he would speak, if he talked about his Guru and his pastimes, it would be the pastimes in relationship to his own Gurudev. And the teachings that could be derived from that. And I remember one time one of my godbrothers was talking about Srila Prabhupada, and he was trying to, sincerely do it and make a nice story. And he said, Srila Prabhupada liked kachoris. And Gurudev said, I don't want to hear about kachoris. I want to hear what was his manubhishta, what were his teachings, what were his accomplishments. I want that glorified. And that's very good for us, because then we're meditating on what Sri Guru has come to give. Because we heard some very beautiful things in the last many days, and about how when Krishna comes, he never touches the material energy. He never interacts with the material energy. He's always transcendental. And his Shakti may transform and interact with the demon somewhat, but Krishna himself, he's always aloof, even while performing pastimes visible to us. And Sri Guru is always also aloof, in that he's never touched by the material modes of nature. And so we have to scrutinize and try to understand his activities and teachings, not through the lens of our own material experience and knowledge and learning, because then we're, what would that be called? That's a imperfect vision. But we have to see Guru through the eyes of Scripture and through the descriptions of those who know Sri Guru, those who have served him. See? And so that's why it's so important to have these Vaishnava associations. And this comes to the point, you told me just to kind of free flow, and now something's coming. An idea of what to say, that one of the specialities of Srila Gurudev, and this is a daunting task because you can't pigeonhole him and say that, oh, this is why he came, or this is why he came. That may be one reason, that may be the thing that attracted or impacted you the most, but he was, I can say it without argument, that the foremost representative of the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his preaching time. It doesn't diminish the activities or stature of any of the great preachers that came along at the same time. Every preacher has a particular mission, and every pure devotee is capable of delivering the entire universe. You know that song that we sing in the morning, the Vaishnava Vandana, where Devakinandan is offering obeisance to each of the all the inhabitants of Navadvip and the associates of Mahaprabhu and Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, and sequentially he's offering obeisance to all the Vaishnavas, even all the Vaishnavas that ever were or ever will be. Imagine that kind of vision. You know, right now we kind of think of everybody, well, that's a Vaishnava, but these are not. These are just Kanishtas, or, you know, these are demons. But actually, with the vision of a pure devotee, and I've seen this in Srila Gurudev's speaking and talking, that anyone who is coming into connection with this mission, anyone who chants the holy name, Namabas, even once, anyone who has heard Srimad Bhagavatam even once, they're on the path, and they will one day achieve Krishna Prem. And when we begin to see people like that, and then we'll begin to see our God brothers, God sisters, and even the newest of us in that light, we get a whole different appreciation of that. So, I was going to talk about this speciality that I got sidetracked. Anyway, so when Gurudev came, let's see, what will come? I'll speak from my own experience, that he said he came for 4 reasons. He's told this to a few devotees time and again. I heard this directly from Gurudhara Prabhu, one of my godbrothers, who Gurudev told directly. And maybe you've heard this. I'm sure, but it bears repeating, and it's always fresh and wonderful. So this is why Srila Gurudev himself said he came to the West. Okay? The first was to visit and honor all the places where his dear Priyabandhu and Shiksha Guru, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, touched and preached at. He wanted to go to all of those. He considered them all holy tirthas because Srila Prabhupada had been there. And this is confirmed in the Bhagavatam. When Vidura returns home to Hastinapur after traveling, even during the Kurukshetra war, he came home after Maharaj Yudhishthira had been installed. And when he came back, Maharaj Yudhishthira was so happy. And he greeted him and he offered many prayers. And he said, you, Vidura, you are yourself a place under pilgrimage. persons like you even purify the places of pilgrimage wherever you go. Generally, people go to the holy tirthas to wash in the waters of some sacred river, some sacred pond, to bow to a particular deity to be washed of sins. But the pure devotees are so powerful that when they go to those places, they purify those places of the sins that are building up and accumulating there. So pure devotees, they walk the earth, and wherever they go, the land is being purified. The land is being purified. So he wanted to see those places. And he said, when I get there, I want to roll in the dust and offer obeisance to those places. And I've heard many stories. I didn't witness it personally at that time, 96, but I've heard from other devotees about very extraordinary expressions of Srila Gurudev's deep reverence for these places and his humility. One of my godbrothers was in, I believe this was in Washington, maybe Seattle. Was it Matilladisha told it? Or maybe it was Oregon. Anyway, they went to some place and they drove to a little house that used to be a temple. Because we used to rent these little tiny houses in the poor section of town, and you could pay $200 a month and have a temple. You know, it was good. Of course, $200 was more then, but relatively speaking, it'd be maybe $500 today, you know, maybe $4. Huh? Yeah, we called them preaching shacks. I started a whole bunch of preaching shacks. One in so, but the temples, the early temples were like that. Some enthusiastic couple, household couple, who had been under Srila Prabhupada's guidance, maybe for a few months, maybe a year, inspired by him, they would go to a new city, and they would go out on the streets, they'd begin chanting. They might have enough money to put down a down payment on rent for the first month. After that, they had no money, so they just go out every day and chant Harinam. And gradually, send some back to Godheads, give them a donation, and put on a little Sunday feast, just like Srila Prabhupada had taught. And in this way, things would go on. And they would attract 1 or 2 people, and then they'd have more people to do Sankirtan. And the mass, you know, like in physics, they have the greater the mass, the greater the pull and gravity, the attraction. So they start with 2, then they become 3 or 4, and then more quickly 6 or 8, and then these little temples would get so big, then they'd get a bigger place. But he went to Washington, and there was an old house, and the devotee said, that's where Srila Prabhupada stayed and spoke. Gurudev got out of the car and he went over to the place and he bent down and offered obeisance on the steps. And this is not a show. People like me, we might make a show of showing devotion just so that people glorify us. Oh, just see how humble he is. It's not true. But for Gurudev, he had that deep, deep reverence. We heard about Bhaktivedanta the other day. Unknown to Gurudev, he had gone to Gurudev's village one time, and for that express purpose of offering obeisance and rolling in the dust of the place of Gurudev's birth. And Gurudev was so surprised, and they would chide each other and chastise, but the love in which Srila Tripakaramaj expressed his devotion to his dear friend. And this is the nature of spiritual love. Here on this level, we're always creating hierarchies, you know, based on age, based on education, based on some kind of seniority. When did you get initiated? You know, who's your guru? But this idea of when we talk about Srila Prabhupada being Srila Gurudev's Shiksha Guru, for those on the transcendental plane, Shiksha Guru is a very deep relationship. And for instance, Rupa Goswami, even though we are following, we are called Rupanugas, he's considered the Acharya in our line for the teaching and disseminating the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He considered Sanatana Goswami to be his Shiksha Guru, his elder brother. it doesn't mean that one is higher or lower than the other. On the transcendental plane, among these associates, they're seeing each other as they are. But, and, you know, like Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he was the greatest scholar in the modern world. No one since the time of Jiva, not since Jiva Goswami, had there ever been such a scholar. And yet, he accepted as his Diksha guru, Sri Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was functionally illiterate. And yet, he knew all the conclusions of Vedic literature, and Saraswati Prabhupada had said, if I had detected even 1/100% in the day of my guru that he was not engaged, even a second, not engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna, I would never have been able to accept him. But he saw and detected in him the greatest devotion. And the greatest devotion to who? To Srimati Radhika. His Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Such deep devotion. And his famous song, which he always sang, which is in our songbook. Anyway, so, to come to the pastime places of Srila Prabhupada, to offer obeisance and roll in the dust, and then, most significant for many of us, to inspire the disciples of Srila Prabhupada that in his absence and in the turmoil that had gone on, institutional turmoil, many of us had just fallen away from association and regular practice. We were seeing everything from a distance, and had again, Punar Mustika Baba. We more or less become mice again. You know that story? Punar Mustika Baba? Yeah, I bet a lot of you don't. In 1976, we went to Parikram to Vrindavan under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, and he spoke this pastime. And I remember sitting on that seat, and Srila Prabhupada could be very stern one moment, make you tremble in your boots, and the other moment he could have the entire audience rolling in laughter. Because his moods, those rays of praying, they could affect the hearts of all. And so he was telling a story. And it's an instructive story. Part of it's funny, but it's also instructive. It's about what happens when you may associate with a great personality, you may take some benefit, but if you neglect that person, again, what will happen? So there was a great sage who was living in the forest, and a mouse came to him. And the mouse said, "Oh, sage, please help me." The sage says, "What do you want?" He says, "Well, I'm being troubled. Every day this cat is trying to chase me and eat me. Well, what do you want?" "I want to become a cat." "All right, become a cat." Became a cat. And after some days, the cat comes to the sage. The sage says, "Well, what's the problem?" "Oh, the dog." "What?" "Well, now that I'm a cat, I'm being constantly chased by a dog who's trying to kill me." "What do you want?" "I want to become a dog." "All right, so be it. Become a dog." And then after some days, the dog comes back. "What do you want?" "Well, now I'm a little bit bigger and meatier. I'm always being chased by the tiger. I'm very afraid of the tiger." "Oh, what do you want?" "I want to become a tiger." "All right, become a tiger." Becomes a tiger. And there he is sitting. And now he's a tiger, and he starts looking at the sage. And you've seen tigers baring his teeth, licking his chops. And sage says, "What do you want?" "I want to eat you." And he gets ready to spring and jump on the sage. The sage says, "Puna mustika bhava." Again, become a mouse. So, Guru gives us so much, but we have to maintain association, and without association, it's very difficult to stay strong. And you have to have the right kind of association. In the absence of Sri Guru, then you have to have those that have strength, but are also in that same line and are your well-wishers. You know, the word is sajatya and snigdha. That snigdha means someone who has affection and love for you. Right? And sajatya means they're following in the same line, the same conception. So, Gurudev said he came to re-energize and lift up all of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Now the amazing thing about it is that Srila Gurudev, again it goes back to his vision, he had a great respect for the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Because it always amazed him how much they were able to accomplish. Because what he said, because of their Guru Nishtha. He said, how is it possible that the devotees of Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj would call them, because Srila Prabhupada's sannyas title is Swami. The reason he doesn't use the word Prabhupada, sometimes he would in private, but he didn't use it in public, is because the senior sannyasis of Gaudiya Math that had become gurus had met among themselves and agreed that even though they were going to become gurus and they would be given different titles, that none of them would take the name Prabhupada because they wanted to keep that for their Gurudev, for Srila Bhaktivedanta. But no one had told our Srila Prabhupada this. Jai Prabhupada Prabhu.
Jai.
But no one had told him and his disciples. Having heard, well, what should we call you, Srila Prabhupada? Having heard the different kinds of names and what they meant, they affectionately gave him that name. And Srila Gurudev later confirmed that the name Prabhupada, it can be given to so many great souls. Any great soul can have the Jiva Goswami, we call him, Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami, and so many others in our line are perfectly capable of that. But he had a great affection for us. One time he was speaking to some of my godbrothers, and the conversation was about taste in the holy name. And they said, oh, we have no taste. We're not getting any ruchi, any taste. And he said, how long have you been chanting? And I said, oh, I guess at that time it was 30 years. And he was astonished, but he wasn't astonished in the way that we would be. What, you've been chanting for 30 years and you're not getting any benefit? No, he immediately thought, what Guru Nishtha they have. That they've taken this order of their Gurudev, and even though they haven't yet acquired taste, they're still chanting. This is real Guru Nishtha. So, when Srila Prabhupada had left this world, he promised that, yes, I will go and help them. And when the time came, that's what he did. And our experience with that was, now here's how you integrate your own personal experience but glorify your Guru without putting yourself too much into it. Right? So, when Gurudev came to the Bay Area in 1997, Prem Prayoji was there. He was selling books at the book table in the hall. Shamarani was there, and there was an afternoon darshan, and she was introducing people. Oh, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. And so she introduced me, and said nice things. And so Gurudev turned and looked at me, and he said with the softest voice, I am so happy to meet you. And when a pure devotee speaks, even to the uneducated, the unenlightened, it has a potency. And he's capable of transmitting some kind of understanding, some kind of realization. That display of affection, I'm so glad to meet you, was so heartfelt, so genuine, so deep, when we say that, you know, we introduce people all the time in business. How you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, good to meet you. Good to meet you. All right. It's just a formality. How much emotion and genuine feeling is in there? But when he said it, I could tell he really, really meant it. And there were some things that went on and some exchange. And in that exchange, there's immediate upliftment. Immediate upliftment by his desire, by his association. And what did he do? He put into our hearts the desire that Srila Prabhupada had, that he transmitted. That my disciples, because Srila Prabhupada knew what was going to happen, that many of us would struggle and go away. And he began to do that. And over the years, I was witness to seeing him in Badger and another place. I didn't go on world tours. I never went on any world tours. And after I moved to India in 2003, I never left, really, until, except for occasional visa things, until just, last year. So I didn't get that opportunity to see him everywhere, but I did see him in a few places, and saw time after time lost souls, lost disciples, like me, come before Srila Gurudev. They'd be introduced on a morning walk, and they were a little hesitant, and then Gurudev would give them this stare. Have you ever seen that painting of the Bhagavad Gita that Shamarani did of Vedavyas speaking to, staring at Sanjay. And there's this beam of light coming from his eyes into the eyes of Sanjay. And what it is he's injecting transcendental potency in him. And you would see these devotees, God brothers, walking in front, a little shy, a little humble, a little uncertain. And they'd be introduced to Gurudev, and he would look at them and speak to them with this soft, tender, loving voice. And, not that I saw this, but it was like as if there was a halo around them both. And all of a sudden, this devotee would just melt, and you would see visually this transformation, this softening, and this opening up of the heart. And yes, I'm back. I'm back. And my Guru has sent this person, and he is here to help me, to love me, and to teach me how to love. And so the fourth thing about teaching how to love, he said, and I want to laugh. And I want to laugh. So to visit the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, to roll in the dust of those places, to help his devotees, and to laugh. And what does it mean when Gurudev is laughing? Hasiras. It means that he's immersed in the joy of spirituality. And for many of us, our hearts were hardened. We have this mental block about whether we can enjoy spiritual life or just practice it very strictly and without emotion because we don't want to be sahajas. But Gurudev was overflowing with the joy of bhakti. And he wanted to impart that to us as a necessary component. When you begin to study the science of practicing bhakti, there's a very beautiful article in One of the Rays of the Harmonists written by Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. And it talks about executing bhakti. And he says there are two elements. There's the cheshta, which is the endeavor, and then there's the bhav, or the mood. And so we perform the activity, but it's very important to understand how to perform it with the appropriate sentiments or mood. And Gurudev coming to laugh meant that he was coming to teach us how to try to inject the proper sentiments into our bhakti, to make it joyous. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pravitranamidam Uttamam. What is it? Pratik Savagamam Dhamyam Susukam. All right, what is this? Yeah. He says the king of knowledge, the greatest, the most secret of all secrets. And he says it's an everlasting process, but he says it's joyfully performed. And so Gurudev came to show us the joy of bhakti. And isn't that the greatest appeal? When Srila Prabhupada, and he used to quote Srila Prabhupada, where he'd say, oh, Srila Prabhupada came, he'd say, Swami Maharaj, as I explained before, he came and he made the hippies happy. This is what bhakti is all about. And so, I'll just conclude here, condensed, that in our practice, embrace the joy of bhakti. Embrace the knowledge that when you're chanting, you're associating with Sri Krishna. Who's Sri Krishna? He's your greatest friend. Just the other day, I heard this beautiful quote by Srila Bhaktivedanta Srila Maharaj, and he was saying that, oftentimes we become so beset with unhappiness about the different things that are thrust upon us in this material world. But remember the other night when I heard this verse, Tatedu Kampam Susamikshamano, quoted and explained, I think you did, right? That Srila Gurudev, in numerous occasions, was saying that it's not karma that we're experiencing. And Gurudev said this in Badger as well, I think 2003 or 2. That the deeper meaning of this is that Krishna's taken charge of your life now. And the slings and arrows, or the so-called pains and sufferings, or the happiness and unhappiness, that's all directed by Krishna himself. Why? Why? Because underneath all of that is the fund of anarthas in our heart. Right? And these different sufferings, they reveal to us, if we're introspective and humble, they reveal to us the nature of our attachments, the nature of our obstacles. And Krishna deliberately puts these obstacles, so that we become introspective, but furthermore, so that we become humbled and surrendered. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I need your protection. I need your help. I need your maintenance. And there's a question, a philosophical question that comes up. This was in the 6th canto in the story of Ajamil. The Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas are having a discussion because Ajamil was a very sinful personality. Do people here know the story of Ajamil? You all know, okay. Very sinful. He had previously been a proper Brahmin, but he deviated so badly, so the Yamadutas came to get him. And when the Vishnudutas said, no, you can't, he's sinless, they said, what do you mean he's sinless? And they said, well, he's chanted the holy name. It's a long discussion, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives many, many pages of purport, but in quick summary, having chanted Namabhas one time, just a semblance of the pure name, all his sins were destroyed. And they said, well, yeah, then how come he's still sinning? If it's all destroyed, how come he still has this propensity to sin? And they said, well, not only, he's still sinning, so he's still accumulating more sin. And he's not sinless. And they said, no, when you first chant that Namabhas, not only are your previous sins destroyed, but all future sins. Right? All future sins as well. Then why is he still sinning if it's all destroyed? And they said, well, they answered, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, both in his commentary there and in the Madhurya Kadambini, in the 3rd shower, at the end of the 5th part, he describes that this inclination towards sin comes by being in the body that for unlimited time, we've been accustomed to that activity. So it's like a snake. A snake has its tendency. What does it do? It bites, bites, bites. But if you take its fangs out, no poison can come in. But it may still continue to bite, but it won't create a problem. So sometimes even in the Vaishnava, then there's some inclination, because of association with matter for so long, to occasionally do some sin or make some mistake. And so all of us have that, right? We all have that. Well, when will this go away? So we have that inclination, but, oh wait, what was I going to say? Oh, God. So, does that ever happen to you? Not very often. When you lose the plot, you get it pretty, I've seen you go like this, but then quickly you get it back. Okay. So, then why do we have that? Why do we have that inclination in the first place? Because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that in that condition, exposed in this way, beset in this way, it makes us humble. It makes us desperate. It makes us eager and greedy. Oh, if only I weren't like this. If only I could have this pure bhakti. And so, when Gurudev traveled around, by showing this laughter and by showing this compassion, he injected the seed of what bhakti really rests on, which is greed. When Shamarani was talking about some stories of herself, when Gurudev would say, oh, because you have no greed. Oh, because you have no greed. Oh, because you have no greed. Greed is the element, this urgency, this intensity of desire. And so, sometimes we're struggling, we're having this difficulty. And furthermore, it's described that if we didn't have these obstacles and a body, even a body itself, because if you chant and you're sinless, you're eligible for liberation. You don't have karma. There's no material body. If you don't have a body, how can you exercise and practice bhakti? You can't. So, I'll just finish by this. What Gurudev, in summary, what it was all about is that Gurudev came to instill great hope and great faith in us by all of this. He used to always say, don't be hopeless. Don't be hopeless. And so by his example of visiting these places that Srila Prabhupada came to that Srila Prabhupada had preached at, the rolling of the dust, showing us how great Vaishnavas acknowledge and embrace one another, by showing his compassion and kindness to all of us as Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and then showing us the joy of spiritual life, the great happiness. In this way, he started an avalanche, the renewal of the Bhakti movement. The Bhakti movement, even throughout history from the time of Mahaprabhu, it has its ups and downs. Just a disciple of his disciple or his disciple. This Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara will go on, and we owe such a debt of gratitude. I just have a wave of memories of Srila Gurudev, but there's always more time to tell. So I'll stop here and thank everyone for coming and just urge you to really take into your own heart as much as you can of the teachings of Srila Gurudev, which are the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, which are the teachings of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada, which are the teachings of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, which are the teachings of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which are the teachings of Rupa Goswami. Take them, embrace them, share them. So, thank you very much. Your Premanande.
Oh my gosh, no, it's not going to work. It's going to be way too far away from you. Did you want the screen to be visible, right? You're going to have like slides.
So they were here. She had me speak, and she said to fill up in between. So you can show the thing. Where will you want to be operating like this? No, yeah. Okay, so what are you doing? Are you connecting with like magically?
Oh. No, just
USB.
I'm only repeating.
Oh, so that's going to be simple. So you're not going to have to operate from here.
But I have to shoot for something.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going to talk.
I have a charger.
Oh, you're trying to charge it up so you can walk it over.
Agyanam timirandasya gyananjana salakaya chaksurunmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Satchi Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Satchi Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, on this most auspicious day for our lives, his Abhirbhav Titi, his divine appearance day. So you've just had the fortune to hear from Sripad Bhaktivedanta by Kanis Maharaj about his personal experiences and appreciations of Srila Gurudev. Now we're going to call on, while Vasanti, here's the plan. Vasanti is figuring out which is a few, not one, but a few very good and easy because he has a strong accent, Indian accent. So for those of you who are new to him, she's picking out videos that have subtitles to make it easier to follow along. So we're going to be calling on a few of Srila Gurudev's disciples this morning for as long as it takes. Everybody said they're only going to speak for a few minutes. And then I wanted to leave like a half hour, and if that doesn't fill out for the half hour, watch out, I'm going to call on those who are not disciples of him, but who fell in love with him by seeing him through his disciples, through his videos, through his books, just to share your impressions. Don't be afraid that, well, if I go there, all I can do is cry. You can cry, that's appreciated. All right, so first while we're waiting for Vasanti, I'm first going to call on Nrsinga Prabhu in the back to come. Stand up by the mic if you feel comfortable. If you don't, you can adjust the mic and sit there on that blue seat. And Sri Prem Prajna Prabhu said that he did not come to speak this morning, he came to listen. So the whole Guru Parampara, Srila Gurudev himself and his representatives are eager to hear your heart's offering of your heart's flowers.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikarai Priyatmane Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Iti Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Panchakalpa Yascha Kripa Sindhuya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I want to try to offer something of what Gurudev has given me, which is called love. Back to him, just in the same way as when we go to worship Gangaji, we just put our hands in this great body of water and we can lift up a little sprinkle, and it's hers, and then we give it back to her. And she's very happy in this way to receive our desire to give what little we have, even though it's come from her in the first place. It's exactly the same with Guru Disciple. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya a line that I find one of the most important teachings and reflections in our whole philosophy, our Siddhanta. yogyata vichare kichu nahi pai, tumara karuna sara. This means, yogyata vichare means, when I deeply and truthfully examine myself, I have to recognize, kichu nahi pai, I have nothing. I have no good qualities. I have no qualifications. And I think on this sometimes because, sometimes the ego protests, no, I can do like this, people appreciate like that, I have something. And then, what am I adding? Oh, I have something. That is mine. So again, disqualification, biggest disqualification of all. That I am something, I have something, I'm the doer, I'm the owner, I am the source, I am so this, that, and the other. This is, so on reflection, ultimately, oh my God, I have nothing except false ego. So tumara karuna sara means your mercy, karuna, your causeless, unconditional acceptance and compassion. Srimati Radhika, one of her names is Kshemeshwari, which means she is the goddess of forgiveness. And our gurus are coming from her. And they have unlimited forgiveness, unlimited patience and acceptance. Just like a mother never says, okay, you've pooped in your diapers 5 times, you've peed on me 10, that's it. I've been keeping a record, there's a limit. There's no limit to the mercy and love of Sri Guru. And his mercy is everything. There's nothing else. So these offerings, all I'm trying to do is remember my Gurudev and remember something of what he's given me by this opportunity to give it back to him. So I remember the first time that I went to see Srila Gurudev, I wasn't looking for a guru. I was at that time, I'd been through so much with ISKCON, etc. I met Srila Prabhupada, I'd had wonderful experience with him, and after kind of going through a lot of the ISKCON stuff, that became my spiritual connection. And I thought Prabhupada is my guru. And then, I didn't come to Gurudev looking for a guru. But a couple of very dear friends had encouraged me to go. And I remember the first amazing thing when I got close to the area where the programs were going on. There was a compound that had been rented. It was in Houston, Texas. And even before I got through the gates, I was feeling something. And I got through the gates, and I remember seeing everybody was laughing and embracing. And I mean everybody. I mean sannyasis with children, with mothers, ladies. Everybody was so affectionate. And I just remembered that, oh my God, I remember this from when I was first in ISKCON. When I first came to see Prabhupada, I remember this mood. And this is what I've been looking for all the time. And this was why I left ISKCON, because what I was looking for wasn't there. And I remember thinking, wow, if these are the fruits, there's got to be a pretty far out tree here. So I was very prepped. And then I met somebody that became a very dear friend, Padmanabha Swami. And we talked a lot about Gurudev and things. And then I also met another devotee, an old friend of mine, Rai Krishna Prabhu. And I'd known him for years. I knew what he was like, what he would do, and so on. But this Rai Krishna I didn't know. And he was so excited that I was there to tell me something about Gurudev. He said, oh, Nishinga, He said, I'd stopped chanting. I didn't, Gayatri, I'd lost everything. And I met Gurudev, and then he started weeping. And I thought, I've never seen this for Hare Krishna before. This is beautiful. He said he gave it all to me. He gave me taste. He gave me commitment. He gave me desire to be a devotee again. And I was so touched. And then I had my own experience with Gurudev that day. But I'm not going to talk about that. And, no.
Remember what I said. It's okay to talk about it when it's instructive.
Yes.
If it's too personal, you might not.
Yeah. It's Gurudev, and all those who met Gurudev know this quality of experience, and those who haven't, they can be excited, they can develop a desire, oh, I want something like that. I want someone like that in my life. I want that experience. So, in a nutshell then, Padmanabha Maharaj and I were talking today. Padmanabha Maharaj, he said, don't worry, I will take you in to see Gurudev, you'll have a private darshan. Oh, that's appropriate, no doubt, because I have some special experience question, and I'm waiting all day for this private darshan. Never happened. And it was good prepping, it was kind of like. And eventually Gurudev came down, and he came to this very big living room. It's actually, this huge living room. This is easily as big as this room. Very wealthy, very beautiful. And there are a lot of devotees there, and maybe a couple of hundred people were in this room. And somehow or other, I managed to sit. I just kind of fell in the flow. About 2-3 rows out from Gurudev, right in front of him. And then he asked for questions. So it looked like he was looking right at me, and I stood up in a sea of people who are sitting down. Now I've stood up, and Gurudev kind of looks at me. He wasn't asking me at all. He was asking the person just in front of me in India. So now, I was really feeling like a big white elephant, I was feeling a complete idiot, which is the totally appropriate way to be in front of Guru. And then they had their exchange, and then Gurudev, all right, now you. So I started to ask Gurudev what I thought I was there to do, because after I joined the movement, I'd had an extraordinary dream, and I wanted to know if the person in it, whose features I couldn't see, only his feet, I'm not going to go through all the details of that, but I wanted to know if it was Prabhupada, because he told me in this dream, because I've gone through a terrible experience in the dream, and I came to him, this person, and he told me he accepted me with all my faults, all my desires. Actually, his exact words were, you are full of material desires, and I accept you. And so I came to Gurudev. Now I was convinced he was a very elevated spiritual personality. And I thought, he can answer my question. Who was this? Was this Prabhupada? Is Prabhupada my Guru? I have not received official diksha. I did not get a name, but in my heart, I felt. So I was going to ask Gurudev this. And I began to ask, I began to tell of my dream. And Brajanath Prabhu was repeating back to Gurudev, because Gurudev couldn't understand natural English. It had to be ruined by Dutch first. So I understood this after some time. Well, it was a very funny experience. I'm speaking English, and there's Brajanath, and it's completely changed. And Gurudev understanding that perfectly. But it's their relationship. And as soon as Brajanath started to repeat what I was saying, just something in me went, no, That's not what I'm here for. And then I looked at Gurudev. I got totally out of my head. And I was just in his presence, and he looked at me. And anybody that has ever been looked at by a pure devotee, Prabhupada, Gurudev, whoever, they look at you and they see you and they go in your heart and they're already there. And you can't, and you don't want to hide anything. You just want to say, please, I'm so suffering without you. I have to have you here. And I looked at Gurudev and I just started to weep. I couldn't control myself. And I said, I've been trying to be a devotee for 35 more years. And I still don't know who I am. I still don't know what I'm doing. And I was just crying. And he looked at me. And this was a moment, oh my God, met my Guru. And he said, I will help you. I will give you shiksha. And tomorrow, I will give you mantras. And I was like, whoa. So, needless to say, for the rest of that day at least, I was like, what happened? What happened? And I went up to Sajjan Maharaj, and I said, when he said he's going to give me mantras, is he what I think he's, Diksha, like Sajjan? Yes. And then Sajjan Maharaj said, before I recommend you, which was fine, it's going through a proper formality. He said, but are you chanting 16 rounds every day? And I said, no. And he said, that's all right, you've been truthful. This is important quality for a Brahmin. So anyway, now I want to go to something else altogether. I was reflecting, Maharaj, when you were giving your offering, you were saying how Gurudev, he was coming to all the places of pilgrimage, because Prabhupada's Leela Sthan, where Prabhupada had been, because he wanted to honor that. But you also said the pure devotee is already the full embodiment of all the places of pilgrimage. And obviously, Gurudev's the most intimate friend of Prabhupada. Is completely himself as a place of pilgrimage in relation to Prabhupada. And then you said how the pure devotee is not going to the places of pilgrimage to take bath. He's going to take all the sins. And I was just thinking, yes. And yesterday, Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj was explaining how, the whole story of how Gurudev saved ISKCON. And what did they do? Afterwards, banned him. How cruel and ungrateful and offensive. And so I was thinking, here's Gurudev, when you were speaking, he's coming to all these places of pilgrimage, and he's taking all the sinful accumulation, because these temples are not full of pure devotees. And we've all been through, we know what was going on. And Gurudev's coming, because Prabhupada wanted this, to take all that. And they said no. So I can understand how so many problems just stay in that area, and why so many of us, we are looking for shelter outside. Yes. So the other thing I wanted to share was it wasn't the first book, but one of the first books of Gurudev I wrote, which absolutely blew my mind and my heart wide open, because I had developed some real sentiment, yes, towards Srila Prabhupada for years. And I'd worshipped him, and I thought about him, and I was grateful to him, and so on. And I thought I knew kind of who he was, and what his mission was, and we all knew that. what Prabhupada's mission was, and it's to go out and chant Hare Krishna and sell books, and it's pretty simple. And then I picked up this book, which, by the way, is one of the most exquisitely, aesthetically designed books I've ever seen, and it is called Gauravani Pracharine. This book, if you have not read it, you are doing yourselves a great disservice. Especially when we've heard that, again, Bhagavat Maharaj yesterday telling us about the relationship between Gurudev and Prabhupada. And what we have to understand as aspiring devotees, the highest book in existence, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, is especially a description of the relationships between devotees, and of course between the devotees and Mahaprabhu, but it's constantly telling us how the devotees are interacting. The interaction of Srila Gurudev and Prabhupada is exquisite, but it's not simply all about the sweet, loving exchange. There's also philosophy at the core. Everything. Rasa cannot thrive if there's not a foundation of tattva vichar. Therefore, Gurudev also said, you must read Srila Prabhupada's books. He said, you want to read my Bhagavad Gita, first you read Swamiji's Bhagavad Gita. So it's imperative that we don't become sentimentalists and just, going to festivals looking for highs. It's a high. It's a no question. The association and the prasadam and kirtan, what to speak of the association with elevated souls? So high. And then we go, and it goes. Unless we are building the foundation, and the foundation, our gurus, Srila Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srila Bhaktivedanta, our Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, they've written. Why? Because they were bored? They didn't have anything to do? They needed to remember philosophy? For us! We can't say we love Prabhupada, we love what he's given, we love our Guru, we love all sentiment if we're not reading their books. We're throwing away what they're giving you. We're slapping them in the face. No, I don't need this. You must read. And then there's a chance. So this book, Gauravani Pracharine, showed me, I'm not going to tell you about the book, you've got to read it. After, I don't know how many years since meeting and thinking I knew Prabhupada, this told me, like I never ever had a clue who was Prabhupada, what his mission was, what he was actually bringing to the world. And Gurudev has built on that unbelievably, like Prem Prayajan Prabhu was talking about context and details yesterday. So Prabhupada gave a context in which Gurudev's books, the details, the expansion. So that's all I'm going to say, otherwise Shamrani is definitely going to interrupt, so I'm going to stop. And thank you very much.
So we heard some very nice glorification with also good sentiment of the heart from Nrsimha Prabhu, who explained how he met Srila Gurudev first by the appreciation and tears of Gurudev's followers, and then his own tears when he finally met Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and how mercifully Gurudev told about his disqualification for getting mercy and said, I'm going to give you mercy. So that touched him, and he also touched us. When he was speaking, I remembered that Sudevi and Kishori Mohan, who are great scholarly preachers all around the world, they said that Gurudev told them that the Father is always happy when he hears the Gu Gu Gaga of the children. So that similar expression of humility was shared with us by Sripad Nrsinga Prabhu, so thank you so much for that. And we,
add one thing.
yes.
That this book, Glorifications, was made by Shamarani Didi.
No, it wasn't, it was made by Gurudev.
From Gurudev's lectures, but it was, Gurudev inspired her. And see how she was so instrumental in spreading Gurudev's mission.
Haribol.
Right.
So the very limited printing, is it gonna be reprinted in another form? I mean, that kind of expensive, right?
Does need to be, I'll talk with the GVP.
Yeah,
We actually are out. We'll talk with the GVP people.
yeah.
The difficulty was they started to do fidelity check for reprinting, and then one lecture they couldn't find because it was in, you found that very one from that book? So then the project stopped and other projects continued, but well, Vasanti and I will personally thank you for that indication. We'll personally make it happen again, especially with Prabhu's appreciation.
It is such a tasteful,
Open, eye-opening.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right, so now I'm going to call on, Chaitanya Shakti, who just did some deep meditation and wrote down her memories with Srila Gurudev so that she can do a free flow. And so I'll request her to come up here at the mic, and although she's shy, I request her to look at the audience, because then it's easier to hear. And you also see it face to face, then it's also easier to hear. Okay. Want to take this mic? And you can see how both these devotees, Nrsinga Prabhu and Chaitanya Shakti, have been so empowered by Srila Gurudev in their kirtans.
Namayo Vishnu Padaya Guru Prasaya Bhutale Shishiman Bhaktivedanta Madhaviti Namane Namayo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyamane Shishiman Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesha Srinivadi Vastasade Shatayane Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vajagati Tanam Bhavanebhyo Vishayubhyo Namo Namah. I'm speaking because Srimati Shamali asked me. I'm very shy, and I'm asking for the blessings of Sripad Bhagavanas Maharaj, Sripad Prayojan Prabhu, and Srimati Shamali that perhaps I can say something pleasing to Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada and to the devotees assembled here today. Srila Gurudev came to Badger, New Braj in 1996, and I was 8 years old, and I was a very spoiled child. I grew up at ISKCON, going to Los Angeles, Watika Avenue Temple, and I only knew of Srila Prabhupada, and I was not really told about Guru and the importance of Guru, and I listened to Krishna book before bed, and I wasn't very interested in reading the books or chanting japa. And when Srila Gurudev came to New Braj, I noticed how all my friends started changing and becoming transformed. And some of them were younger than me, and some of them were older than me, and they were all becoming very inspired. They were all taking initiation from Srila Gurudev. And I personally witnessed how they would all go for Kartik, and they would come back very inspired and chanting japa and singing. And my friend Janava, we would sing every day at Gurukul. We would sing all the bhajans before doing the academics. And I noticed how she started to sing so beautifully and wonderfully. And I used to sing with her, but then she became so good that I didn't want to sing with her anymore. I felt so shy. And she brought back all these special techniques from the Vrindavan that I didn't know, like doing the special thing at the end of Radhe Jai Jai Madhava Daishe. And she showed me how to do it so that we could sing it together. And Srila Gurudev came to Brajendrananan Prabhu's house to hear all the students speak verses that we had learned. And I was very shy. Braj Prabhu asked me if I wanted to be in the plays and recite a verse at the festival in front of Srila Gurudev. And I was very shy. Instead of seeing it as opportunity, I was afraid and I missed the chance. But I'm getting a little bit ahead. So they made a beautiful plate of cookies for Srila Gurudev to hand out to everyone. And the children got to go first to get cookies from Srila Gurudev. And I was really excited about getting cookies. And I have this little Radharani doll that Rukmini Devi in Rajwood does the adorable dolls. And I brought my doll with me, and Srila Gurudev gave me a cookie also for my Radharani doll and smiled at me. And I didn't understand. And I was just happy that there was a second cookie. I was very clueless, and I still am. And then when I was a teenager, then one year we made Father's Day cards for Srila Gurudev on Father's Day. And we put a little picture of him and decorated it with crayons. And I didn't know Srila Gurudev at all. And I felt like all my friends loved Srila Gurudev and knew him and had a relationship with him. And I felt that was the first time where I started feeling like they have something that I don't have. And I wanted to. I want a relationship with him also. I want to hear from him, and I want to love him, and I want him to love me also. And I felt sad that I was making this card for him, but there was no, I was just empty, like a heart waiting to be filled. So then, when I was a teenager, my dad introduced me to Srila Gurudev, and I was, again, just scared of Gurudev. I was kind of scared. And Srila Gurudev just looked right into my eyes, and I felt like he saw every bit of me. And he said, "Do not doubt," very strongly. And I didn't understand what he meant. Do not doubt what? Do not doubt. Just do not doubt. That's what he said. That was the first thing he ever said to me. I just met him, and that's what he said. And sometimes I feel like I'm still figuring it out, and maybe it's the purpose of my whole life to figure it out, what he meant. And
That's what he meant.
my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, he put his hand in the air and he said, "Oh, initiations are tomorrow." And I hadn't even thought of getting initiated. And immediately, my friends, like Janava and the other young people at the school, started telling me the glories of Srila Gurudev and how I should get initiated. And I was very scared and uncertain. My family was not favorable to Srila Gurudev at the time. And I was a very obedient child, and I only thought I should, listen to family always, so I didn't know what to do. It was a big drama. And the next day, I had a plate of fruit and Lakshmi to get initiation from Srila Gurudev. And my father said that I should call my mother to tell her hey, I'm gonna get initiated, by the way. She was not there in Badger. And my mother had heard some false propaganda from different people, so she was angry. She was upset with me. And she said, things that were not okay. And I just got angry with her, and I said, no, those things are not true about him. Even though I didn't know him at all, I was like, no. And I just became angry, and that was when I decided. I was like, that was it. And I just kind of marched to the purple carpet hallway to Shulkude's room, and I was like, I'm getting Harinam. It was my anger at my mother actually that like inspired me to go. And I took so long to decide that Jonathan took my fruit plate and got Diksha, so I came to him with absolutely nothing. Zero, not even $1.
Oh, God.
And before this, actually, I got a little ahead. I was really, really stupid. And I was literally standing by the fireplace in New Braj, and I was like crying, trying to decide what to do. And I guess someone told Gurudev, like, there's this crazy crying girl, and she's bothering all the devotees. So Shri Gurudev came there, like, angry mood, like, really fiery. And he said, I think he said, like, be like Prahlad Maharaj. And I was like, oh no, he's saying my mom's like Hiranyakshipu. And I was like, just, I didn't know. I was stupid, and I just didn't know what to do. And Vishaka Didi was there, and she was so sweet to me. I kind of needed a mom, and my mom wasn't there because she was not favorable. So Vishaka like hugged me and was so sweet, and she said, you can hold it in your heart like a gem, and like just cherish it, and it's okay, you know, and you don't have to like be, you know, if your family's unfavorable, like you don't have to scream to the rooftops even though you want to, and she encouraged me very sweetly, and she's still one of my favorite people. And so then I went to get Harinam from Shri Gurudev, and Braj Prabhu so kindly came with me. I don't know what happened to my dad. Maybe he was taking care of my grandma. No family was there. Nobody was there. Just me. So Braj Prabhu came with me, and I was an extreme idiot, and Braj Prabhu had to tell me to pay my obeisances. And Shri Gurudev was sitting on the bed, and his feet were on that little white rug that they still have there. And I like that they still have it there, and I'd like to pay my obeisances and remember. And he gave me Harinam. And I'm a monumental idiot. I asked him if I could start by chanting 2 rounds instead of 4. And he said yes. Which everyone else was given 4 as the starter number as far as I heard. And then Braj Prabhu rushed me out to the picnic table and was like, write down everything he said. And I was like, okay. And we like frantically wrote down everything he said. And then we like circled around to the temple room. And Govinda Rapini Didi said, did you get Harinam? And I was like, she's my senior and I can't lie to her, but I have to keep it a secret because then my family will be angry. So I was like, yes, but don't tell anybody. And she did not tell anybody until I told my family. She kept the secret. And it was like a secret that I kept for years that I got Harinam from Gurudev. I was like 14. And I kept it a secret. I would whisper Gurudev's pranam mantra, and people said stuff to me, and they said, like, you shouldn't have done that. You freaked out your family, and you shouldn't have gone and said you were going to get Harinam from Narayan Maharaj. And I'd go to all these programs, and I hid my Gurudev books behind my other books. It was really crazy. And I read Way of Love. Oh no, okay. Yeah, so then in 2007, Ranga Didi so kind of gave me book table seva, and someone left a picture of Srila Gurudev on the table, and it was there for hours, and no one came to take it, so I took it, and that was my first picture of Srila Gurudev that I kept, and I still have it. And one time, the first time I touched his lotus feet, I went with the ladies in the morning to give flowers after the morning walk. And all my friends were like, come on, hurry up. And I had these horrible Velcro shoes. And I had to take them off, and everyone else's shoes were already off. And I was rushing to take my shoes off so I could give him a flower and touch his lotus feet. And I managed to do it in time, and I was like the last person. And he was almost like walking past already. And I rushed, and I touched his lotus feet and his saffron socks. And I stood up and gave him a flower. Maybe I gave a flower first, I don't remember. And he looked at me, and did this beautiful head shake and smiled at me. And I just felt most loved and accepted that I've ever felt. And I think that's all. Thank you so much.
So now we just had the second very beautiful offering. There were so many unique things about both and so many similarities. The similarities being that by the tiniest thing Gurudev did, a glance, a sentence, the whole life felt transformed. And you don't find when people talk about their experience with other people that they say, and he looked at me and said, it's just, he said. But we heard too, and we'll probably hear more, and he looked right at me and said, because, as they mentioned, his look goes deep into the soul. When she said she was so nervous that she forgot to offer her obeisances at the time of her initiation, that reminded me that at my initiation with Srila Prabhupada, I didn't even know the mantra. And so Prabhupada said, bow down. I bowed down. He said, Nama. I said, Nama. He said, Om. I said, to finish the whole thing. So everything in relation to the pure devotee, you could see with both of these speakers how significant everything was. The cookie for her doll, the Father's Day card, what the anger towards her parents, how that transformed her life. Why? Because Gurudev inspired her to be angry, because he'd already accepted her as his own. And be like Prahlad, she's probably meditating on that till this day. How to be like Prahlad and fearless and a preacher and not listening to the dictations of Maya. So one thing that I learned in her speech was how deep devotee children are. And Gurudev saw that. Just like Prabhupada was meditating for a long time on the Gurukula children's drawings of Krishna, and I just couldn't see anything in the scribbles. But he was looking for a long time. Similarly, Gurudev could see the depth, the thoughts that were going on within, the struggles for that I want to surrender to this person, and Maya in different forms was dictating otherwise. So he saw, just imagine this little girl at 8, 9, 10 years old thinking, I want to have what these other children have. I'm so empty. I want to be filled up. My heart is so empty. I want it to be filled up. Who could know what's going on with these children but the pure devotees? So it was so enlightening. Thank you, Jay. And thank you again to the Srila Prabhu. So now I'm calling on Chaitanya's Shakti's other half, Haridas Prabhu, who unfortunately for us, we will not see his dancing this evening because he's going back to Alachua. So we're calling on him this morning.
Can I say one thing, Vicky, before he starts? Because she said, I was meditating on don't doubt. Don't doubt. And I think the whole experience was, I think it was quite inspiring. How many
Do you mind taking the mic?
Extraordinary, despite all the obstacles that were thrust in your way, the least of which was your shyness, but your relatives of peer pressure and everything else, you just kept forging forward and pushing aside all those doubts, all those obstacles, and you did it. And don't doubt, it's Shraddha. Shraddha is something that will grow and grow and grow and grow. And I don't know, you gave me some inspiration for my own Shraddha, so thank you very much.
Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramiditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyanmane Prana Bhagavatam Param Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tam Shirasham Namami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Amashreshta Manamapi Sachi Putra Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Gajam Rupari Maturim Goshtavatim Radhakundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Kripaya Shri Guru Tam Natosmi. So I offer my obeisances millions and millions of times to my Paramaradhya Guru Padapadma Nitya Lila Pravista Om Vishnu Pada Asatara Sachi Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and to all the sannyasigan, to Srimati Shamaranadi, Sriman Prem Prayojan Prabhu, and to all his beloved disciples. So, what really struck me about Srila Gurudev is that the love that he had towards those objects that were meant for the pleasure of his spiritual master. Gurudev said that many people were afraid of him because he had the ability to pay obeisances and do service even to a dog that had done service to his Srila Gurudev. I remember hearing about Srila Gurudev when he came to the mat, he would worship Brihad Bhagavatam written with so much potency, and so then the conceptions that were contained within the scriptures revealed themselves within his heart. So Srila Gurudev was always taking shelter of great personalities, and throughout his life he established how to relate amongst the Vaishnavas, how to develop this proper culture of respect by which we can obtain the mercy of these great personalities. I remember Gurudev would talk consistently about how Mother Yashoda, she put down baby Krishna in order so that she could tend to the milk, and she paid respects to the milk, and this is meant for the satisfaction of my law. So with that same intensity, we understand that if we love somebody, that we love those objects that are dear to them. And Srila Gurudev emphasizes constantly throughout his life. If you have a best friend and he has a Willie Mays 600 home run ball and you take it out of the glass and you play with it, it shows that you really don't love that person. That you're using that person for your own benefit. But if you have deep respect for those things that he cherishes with his heart. Srila Gurudev in Bhakti Rasayan, he makes the point that we have to understand if we're not progressing in bhakti, that we're lacking this culture of respect, that we don't have this loving attitude towards those things, those devotees who are doing service to Srila Gurudev. Our path is very much one of being the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha and Krishna. I remember reading in the Holy Name that why is it that Srila Haridas Thakur gave mercy to the prostitute. One of the things that the prostitute had, who had come to seduce him, she had this culture of respect induced into her at a very young age. When she saw the shadow of a sadhu, she would pay obeisances. When she saw the shadow of Tulsi Maharani, she paid obeisances. And so if this wasn't within her, Srila Haridas Thakur would have left and not given her mercy. So it's a very beautiful thing that, like Gurudev, throughout his life, he had said that Srila Bhakti, he had obtained Srila Bhakti Pragyan, like Srila Bhakti Pragyan had considered him to be not just a disciple, but his heart when he took care of Ananga Mohandas Shriman Ananga Mohandas Brahmachari, when he cleaned his stool, when he took care of him, and when he was when he had tuberculosis, and he cared for him so lovingly and so beautifully, not considering anything. This is dear. He gives so much happiness to my Gurudev, so lovingly and with so much care, engaged in his service. And so I think this heart of the Vrajabasis, by which the Vrajabasis derive so much more pleasure in seeing others engage in service to Krishna than in their own direct service. This is exemplified also in Bhakti Rasayan when Srila Gurudev explains that the Vrajabasis, when Krishna was getting the name-giving ceremony, the Brahmin thread, the Brajabasis weren't given an invitation, but Nanda Baba, when Krishna was first brought into Mathura, Nanda Baba told Baladev, "You please stay, otherwise Vasudeva will perish." And then Baladev Prabhu, "I can't be anywhere without Krishna." And so even though it pained him to be away from Krishna, he was thinking of, no, this is service. I mean, Vasudeva, Krishna is dear to him. He was trying to increase the service mentality. So this is the nature of the Brajabasis. Their heart yearns and always to see others engage in service to Shri Krishna. I remember hearing from, I believe it was Srimati Shamarana in a class online, when she mentioned that Mother Yashoda will call Krishna for Srimati Radhika for some service, but there's an arranged meeting for Radha and Krishna to meet. So what will she do? Will she go and meet Shri Krishna, and Krishna is yearning to meet with her, or will she go to Mother Yashoda? She will go to Mother Yashoda. And I believe I'm hearing that right. That's somehow stuck in my mind. So this is the nature. Srila Gurudev opened all these conceptions, these considerations to develop the mood of the Vrajavasis. He gave us access to their moods, to try to consider them like our family. But this culture of respect is necessary. If we respect his disciples, if we respect all that, the paraphernalia that was used in his service. I remember reading that, I believe it's also in Bhaktivedanta, that one of the Srila Gurudev is mentioning that the speciality of the Gaudiya Vaishnava line is that we do not take direct shelter of Krishna, but we take shelter of those
Prabhu,
things.
you're going 75 record speed.
I'm sorry,
Can you bring it
nervous.
down to 45? I know why. Can you consciously, like the actors, they were
Yes.
speaking very fast, and by practice, they spoke slow and,
Okay, I can do
thank
that.
you.
So thank you for bringing attention to that. One of the things that I remember reading, I believe it's in Srila Bhakti Rasayan, is that Srila Gurudev was mentioning that the speciality of the Gaudiya line is that we don't take direct shelter of Shri Krishna, but to those objects that give Krishna happiness. So there's Yamuna Devi. We have more relationship to the Yamuna Devi, to Govardhan, to all these objects, to his dear, especially to his dearest devotees like Nanda Baba and the gopis. And so we take direct shelter of them. And so I remember reading this, and I thought that was very beautiful, and just how loving and how beautiful. Srila Gurudev with his expert Harikatha, by training his preachers to engage in Katha, he very much opened very wide the floods of the moods that are contained within the Goswami's literature, within the pastimes. And so yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to speak about, and just seeing that within each and every one of us, he has implanted that seed for Raj Bhakti, respecting and trying to see the treasures that Gurudev has laid within us. We can't imagine, it's beyond fathom how much we mean to Srila Gurudev, how much we mean to the spiritual world. And just if we can relate to each other in that manner, seeing that everyone is worthy of my respect. Because they're, no matter, especially they're very honorable, they have so many anarthas, but they're still trying to develop it. It's difficult when you don't have taste, when you don't have when your heart, there's still something that struck you at one point, but you're losing that, and you're trying to obtain it, and you're just despondent. And it's so honorable that somebody with, who's in that condition, still trying their very hardest to obtain these deep movements. At least I want for myself to be able to see, not with my own limited vision, but with the vision that Srila Gurudev, just an inclination to have that vision. It would be very beautiful. So it is.
Very excellent, thank you so much. So he gave so many instructions, and I think you'll all agree with me, he gave it without us feeling or thinking that he was preaching to us. Rather, he was expressing his appreciation. He didn't share any personal interactions on one hand, but he shared so many personal interactions with Srila Gurudev's words and books. And so I, for one, I'm sure you did too, really, although he didn't say Gurudev's not different from his books, one could, by hearing him, could feel that he was personally interacting with Gurudev's books as Gurudev. Like I'm telling a story that Gurudev told, so I merged into Gurudev. Isn't that how you're feeling? And then he didn't say, oh, you should have respect for everybody because they're trying. He was expressing his own aspiration, sharing what he himself is going through to reach Gurudev's lotus feet, and then by knowing what he would want, treating others as I would want to be treated. So he's expressing his longing to be like that, and so I took it that I also want to be like that without feeling that he was preaching to me, which is a very excellent quality. So thank you so much for that. Now I would like to call on Madhavi Devi Dasi. Oh.
You know, stay right here.
Oh. There's no mic.
There's no monkey there. My voice is being heard.
Right here. Sit here. Now you had such wonderful association with him on a few occasions that I was even there for. And since I already know them, don't need to face me, you can face the audience.
No, but something very quick about Srila Gurudev. First of all, I'm a yoga instructor. I do Reiki healing. He knows that, right? And it's all coming in a line of energy. When Srila Gurudev first came to Florida, and I went to see him, and of course, I knew about him in the 90s because I was living in Vrindavan, and Shamarani Didi and I were been friends for many years. She instructed me on book distribution at the Miami International Airport. So for many years we got separated. She went to Vrindavan. Then I follow her everywhere she goes. Then I was cooking for her in Vrindavan, and when she started following Srila Gurudev, first of all, and I had heard about Srila Gurudev in New York City, Taron Krishna Das shared a book with me, which was so funny when the Mataji was talking about hiding the books. I got a book from Srila Gurudev in New York City, and it was handed to me under the prasadam table. And then we had to hide it, because if anybody sees it, then you'll get in trouble. So then I went to Vrindavan, and Shamarani Didi would send me to run some errands in Vrindavan to go to Rupa Sanatana Mandir. And there was a lot of politics in ISKCON where, you know, if you go to Srila Narayan Maharaj, you can get in trouble. But then I always felt safe, because if Shamarani Didi is following him, then I trusted her, so I trust that she is a representative of his. So then when he came to Miami, and he was staying at Raguna's place and on the beach, which is walking distance from our home, Vishwarupa here, my son. In the early morning walk, I would go there, and I was wondering, you know, what should I say? You know, he's not my guru, and I don't feel that connection yet, even though I know he's pure and I have to pay my respect. So during the morning walk, I saw him doing some yoga postures. They were doing some yoga. And then I thought, how funny. That's not yoga, he's just going like this, like that. Then I thought, oh, maybe he's trying to teach me that I could teach yoga to people who don't have a full, you know. Then from that time I thought, this is going to be my guru from now on. Then, because of the yoga, I felt that he was teaching me that, look, you can. Then the next time around, we follow you to, you came to Alachua. After many years, she came to Alachua. Then I made arrangement that my husband would take me to Alachua to see her. Then immediately we bonded and we started reminiscing about when we lived together in different temples and ISKCON. Then my husband came to pick me up, and my husband said to me, "Oh, when I met your Guruji, that lady, I feel like I fell in love with her. Can I do everything for her? Buy whatever she needs, pay her whatever she needs?" And I say, "Yes, you can." Then the next time around, she arranged for him to get initiated because he was wondering, well, Prabhupada already left the planet and your other guru also left the planet. Now what's left of me? Can I get initiated by Chamarani Didi? And then I said, maybe one day she'll decide and give you initiation. Then we went to visit her the second time, and she gave him a lot of attention, and he'd say to me, "Nobody ever talked to me that way. She is like, are you sure she's not the..." Yeah, but because of you, Gurudev came to our lives because he said, if she's that good and she's following that guru, then we should go to that guru. Then he went to talk to her, and he right away, he said, I have a lot of phones, and I have a lot of issues. I drink beer, and then I'm a biker man. And she said to him, but if you surrender to Gurudev, maybe you can switch it from beer to kombucha. And he loved that. And so he said, one day I'm going to get initiated by Narayan Maharaj, even though he's not physically present. Then she suggested that Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj was going to initiate him and Vishwarupa. And because of Shamarani Didi, we put it all together. But last thing I want to say, one time I also, when he came to Alachua the first time, I took a whole bunch of yogis with me from South Beach, which I know they drink and smoke and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I figured, look, if there's a yoga retreat, and these are my students, I take them with me. Then the great family, Marivi and family, they arranged that, there's going to be an initiation. Why don't you bring your students to Srila Gurudev? So I walk in the room with like about 11 disciples of mine. And I was scared because I knew they're not prepared. That's what I thought. But immediately he saw us come in. He looked up and he said, bring more. To me that has been like, don't judge anybody. We don't know who's who. A lot of those people got initiated and they're doing great service today. They're yoga instructors. And it's all by His mercy. I feel very much like I met him in person right before he left Miami when he was staying with Raghunath. He was sitting in the vehicle, his turban on, and the devotees were all rushing because he was going to Houston. And my husband and I, he took off from work just to go see because he was leaving. So we rushed over there, and he was already in the parking lot. And the way he looked at us was enough for us to decide this is it for us. And that's when he made that decision that he wanted to get initiated, by just that look. Yes.
Oh, so your husband wanted to get initiated by Gurudev?
Yes.
Because of the look?
Yes.
And then, so he got initiated by Gurudev through Srila Bharati Maharaj?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Jai-ho.
Very, very good. Very good. Just imagine the tricks she's sharing. Just imagine the tricks that Gurudev uses. A few yoga stretches gave her so much instruction and inspiration to transform her life.
Yes.
And also, if you love and respect somebody who's connected with Guru, she's sharing, then you automatically will respect that Guru even though you haven't had any personal contact. That's a good teaching for us, to love people so that they would, by giving them the love, showing them the love they don't get elsewhere, then they'll want to see what we have and who we got it from, that we could give them. So thank you so much. And bring more. Does that mean he initiated the the drunkard people that he brought, but they came to him drunkards, and then he just transformed them. Just such mercy. You can see. Thank you, Maharaj. So we don't know how much time we have left because we don't know if Guru Puja, is Guru Puja only going to be in the morning? Okay, not in the evening. No, okay. So we don't have that much time. So we're going to take, Amorti Prabhu, are you coming? He's gone?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, will you be here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because we wanted to show some videos of Srila Gurudev himself revealing his own glories on this most auspicious day. So where is Vasanti Devi Dasi? 2 now. Let's see what happens, how long it is, and when the and then when the Guru Puja starts. When is the Guru Puja starting? I see. Okay, that's good. So let's see how many.
Here it comes.
Sometimes in Badger, the plan was to show one video and then have the other speakers speaking some Krishna conscious theme for that week. But then after the first video was over, it was impossible to stop there because all the devotees screamed out, more, we're not satisfied. So let's see what happens after this. So I'm moving my seat.
Please bring a seat for Srimati, please.
You need to start it, and then let's see. It's not coming out? Oh. Okay, hold on. Why don't we just unplug the...
No, it's because the wire is destroying the sound. It's playing the TV instead of making video.
Well,
This one.
it's supposed to, but it's, no, it's actually supposed to, well, just unplug it and it'll come out of the TV and it'll be fine. We wanted to go into the sound system. In the back. Huh? If she, to the earphones, that's true. But she doesn't have an earphone plug. You don't have an earphone plug. Yeah, unfortunately it's missing.
Do you have a Bluetooth speaker?
I don't.
If you have one, you can connect the Bluetooth to the laptop. It'll be louder.
Yeah, for sure. Good. I found it.
You should know. In Sanatana Dharma, there are two forms. Coming from Krishna himself. Real Vaishnava, real Sanatana Dharma, Vaishnava Dharma, or Bhagavad Dharma, or Vaidika Dharma. All are same. Sanatana Dharma, Bhagavad Dharma, Vaishnava Dharma, Bhagavad Dharma, all are same. So everything, there is only one real Sanatana Dharma. Sometimes it may be some abhas, but the real Sanatana Dharma is one. So it is coming from Krishna himself. And he inspired in the heart of Brahma. Brahma inspired that dharma in the heart of Narada. Narada inspired in Vyasa. And Vyasa inspired in Srila. And he inspired in Sutta Goswami. And Vyasa also inspired in the heart of Madhvacharya in Kali Yuga. Madhvacharya, Rama, Vishnu, Swami, Nimbadikto. Among them, he gave in the heart of Madhvacharya. From Madhvacharya, in their disciplic order, Madhavendra Puri came with all the tree of and devotion and love. Inspired in the heart of Ishwar, and then it descended from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sat Damodar, Rai Ramanand, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and it is coming to him, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Purusham Vishnu Pasha Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur, our Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pradhyana Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and he gets sannyas to Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he was the disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. And thus, whole world is one. So our family is so Sanatana Goswami. It has so many lakhs and lakhs branches. So, a guru who is preaching in the seat, being in the seat of Vyas. What is the meaning of Vyas? From a certain central point, if it will do, Satya. And if it is divided into two sections, central point and circular point, this is called Artha Vyas. Vyas is whole. And from there, if any angle is done straight, then it is a right angle. 90 degrees. So that Artha Vyas will be a straight line here, touching here. So that they touch all the glories of Krishna, Bhagavan, and he divided Ved in four, Rigved, Samved, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda. But it was so hard. So he made it very easy by Purans. Purans are an explanation of Vedas. Other than that. So, know the Purans. He made very easy Mahabharata. उसको स्त्रियां भी समझ सकती हैं, शूद्र भी समझ सकते हैं, सब समय कुछ नहीं जानते बेचारे, वो लोग भी समझते हैं, और all. And after that, to reconcile, why he has written that you should worship Durga, Kali, Ganesh, Shankar, Krishna, Ram. Why he did? He has reconciled all in Vedanta Sutra. Very learned. Those who are preaching, being on the seat of Vyas, they are also Vyas. That Vyas is the original Vyas, but they are Prakash of Vyas. Really, Baldev Prabhu and Nityananda are the Prakash of Krishna. Although they are doing the work of any acharya. So, the worship of all the acharyas, beginning from Krishna to all acharyas, is called Vyasa. Like a garland, if you take one flower from the border, then it will be useless. All are connected. So if we are denying any of the Guru in this disciplic order, you are not obeying, not worshipping, then your Guru Puja is like zero. So today, this day, a Guru who seater. Yes, we must serve, worship his Guru Dev and whole Guru Parampara. गुरु अपने जन्म के दिन में यदि दूसरों डिसाइपलों की पूजा लेता है और अपने गुरुवरों की पूजा नहीं करता है, सबकी पूजा नहीं करता है, तो वो गुरु नहीं है, गुरु ही नहीं. Understand? A so-called guru is not worshipping his Gurudev and his whole Guru Parampara, Krishna, Mahaprabhu and all Ramchandra, all including, and actually he is not. Only taking off from his so-called disciples, both is invalid. But nowadays it is going on that anyone so-called guru on his birthday, he only takes money, he is not satisfied from flowers and his heart. He should honor all his God brothers, all Vaishnavas, reward. And especially he should worship his Gurudev in whole Guru Parampara up to Krishna. Our Guru Maharaj used to do Krishna Pancha, Vyas Pancha, Acharya Pancha, Pancha Tattva, Vyas Pancha, Krishna Pancha, Acharya Pancha, Guru Pancha, Chaitanya Pancha, like 7 Pancha. सबकी पूजा करते थे. व्यास जी हमारे भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर जी ने वो ग्रंथ प्रकाशित किया. Bhaktivedanta Thakur introduced all this. He discovered a book from Madhva Sampradaya from Udupi and he brought and he used it. Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur also introduced. Or Gurudev used to follow totally all this. So you should know that any acharya on his birthday will honor all Vaishnavas. Especially he will do Guru Puja and Guru Parampara, all up to Krishna. This is just not only doing archan and giving garland to the neck of Krishna and Guru. Real Vyas Puja is to obey their orders, follow their orders. This is justice. This day, Guru will see that whether I am following the orders of my Gurudev, the line of our Guru Parampara, Gita, Bhagavad, Narayan, Vedanta, whether we are following. But we should also know the devotees who are so much advanced. They may give up something. This is called Sanatana. Something. But like Sukadeva Goswami, he never told any God naked. Anyway, it is not written that anyone should be naked within any council of ladies and what he used to do. So should we know that he was overlooking Sanatana Dharma? Because of the high state. He had no worldly remembrance and all this. In our Sanatana Dharma, we should not give up our wives. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, get out of Sanatana Dharma, Sukadeva Goswami, he left his father, mother, but to serve Krishna totally. So, if a man from any varna, especially from Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, even from Shudra, if he is qualified, he may take renounce order. So, if anyone is on the high love and he is doing pranam to Ramchandra and all others, but especially he is sexually Radha and Krishna, like Hanuman always around, no other. Understand? That is called Ananya Bhav, one pointed. Like Hanuman, he told to J.T. Ram, Tulasidas, that I will do pranam if you are tracking Hanuman. And I can't say to Hanuman, go and and in the shape of Ram, they get present to Tulasidas. No. Like Hanuman, he went to Dwarka, and Krishna told Rukmini, Satyabhama, oh, I want that I am going to be Ram and you should be Sita. But Satyabhama told her, I can't. But Rukmini, she was like me. She became Sita, and Krishna became, and Hanuman became. They said no more. So if anyone like मीरा का नाम जानते हैं? मेरे तो गिरधर गोपाल दूसरों न कोई, मेरे तो गिरधर गोपाल दूसरों। Look.
Just from the announcement, someone has a toilet next to the park next to the
A what?
toilet?
Next to the first?
Yeah. I don't think.
Earth.
Earth.
Yeah, there is a
White.
Toyota
Yeah.
next to
Got it.
yours, you've gotta go over there.
Yes.
You just can't park it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a white Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, we got it.
On the right.
White Toyota Corolla?
I think that's what they're-
I'm a Prius.
So we're waiting for Gurudev to come back. And while we're waiting, we can review what he was saying. Because in Badger, he said, now I'm speaking to you. He said it in an evening class. If after the class you repeat what I said, then it will go into your heart, my words. And if after the class you speak about something else, then it will evaporate into the air. So let's do that while it's fresh in our minds. He was expressing how the disciplic succession is coming down from Krishna all the way down through Madhvacharya, Vyasadeva, down to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came in the line of Madhavendra Puri, who was the sprout of the creeper or tree of that kind of Madhurya Prem that is since then coming in our line. And then he gave the list of pure devotee gurus from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down to the present day. So as the mercy is going down, the worship is going up. So he, in fact, we had no really discussion well, I wasn't at all the classes, but when I was there was no discussion of like, what is Vyasa Puja? Today is Vyasa Puja. So Gurudev himself explained what is Vyasa Puja. once he said, today is my Vyasa Puja. My Vyasa Puja. What does that mean? It means it's my day to worship Vyasadeva and his whole disciplic succession. He was explaining here that if any guru just takes the flowers and the worship and the gifts for himself, then he's not a bona fide guru. A bona fide guru will observe his Vyasa Puja by leading his disciples in the worship of the whole Guru Parampara. And he explained that this knowledge of how to do that was collected by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur from a book by Madhvacharya on worshipping 7 times 5, 7 panchika. Panchika means 5, and then 7. So there's 7 groups of 5 groups of who to worship. Like, for example, Panchatattva is 5. And Guru, Gadadhar, and Radha Krishna, and who else is the 5th? Gaur Gadadhar, Radha Krishna, and Guru. Thank you. So that's another group of 5. Huh? Upasya Panchakam. Upasya Panchakam is the right term, which he has all of. But there are 7 Upasya Panchakams. Did I get that right? Oh, Upasya Panchakam, thanks. So who's the Upasya then? Oh, that one. Right, so that's the Upasya Panchaka. And then there's Vyasadeva and his disciples, 4 main disciples. And then there are 3 others, which are, so the 4 Kumaras. So that's 4 plus 1 is Visvakshen. So there are Charyas of the 4 Sampradayas, namely Madhva, Nimbaditya, Vishnu Swami, and Ramanuja. And plus Sukadeva Goswami, whose Srimad Bhagavatam is read and worshipped by all. So that's another Panchaka. So there's 7 Panchakas, and gradually we'll get to know them better and better as we go to more Vyasa Pujas. What else did he say? Does anyone remember what else he said about Vyas? What is Vyas? There's the whole Vyas, the whole circumference, the whole circle, and everything in it. And then there's the Ardha Vyas, which is the half Vyas, which is the diameter. So he explained that Vyas means from the central point to any point on the circumference, there are unlimited points. So Vyasadeva took Radha and Krishna, the center of all existence, and brought them to all corners of the universes. And anyone who is seated on the seat of Vyas and who follows Vyas, who follows all the scriptures, like Vyas, he's also called Vyas, because he's distributing Radha and Krishna's mercy and glories to the whole universe. So there's the original Vyas, and every bona fide guru is also called Vyas. Is it coming back?
Well, yeah, we can start it.
Start now? Let's start.
There's not much left of this one. You can raise the volume if you want. On your computer.
We will तो पूजा of Guru Parampara, आँखों में, नैनों में नंदला, all this has to be in our mind. So ये भाव, इसलिए आज हम लोग संक्षेप में ये बतलाया, we will do पूजा of Guru Parampara, we have no Guru Parampara, everything. We in India we used to put some kalash. Small pizza. And to puja. Today we are going to do one or the one with the people. Puja हम माता का देना ये पीछा गुरुदेव को नहीं पानी Sometimes they will together to bring the Suhani. दर्शनों की पूजा समाप्त हो जाएगी पुष्पांजलि दे करके आरती कर करके नमो
Now we're going to do the puja. I just wanted to, something I forgot, when Madhavi said that because of the unbona fide propaganda against Gurudev, they had to hide everything. So hide means gupta, hidden. And that the word gopi comes from gupta, or hidden, because they're hidden in the heart of Krishna, Krishna's hidden in their heart. So this is the sadhan bhumi, and then there's siddha bhumi. So training here to do there, to help Radharani hide, as you've been hearing in the last days. It starts with hiding the books. So I remember, just to show that she's authorized in reading the book and then hiding, we were with, a few of us were with Gurudev in small darshan in Mathura, and he said, so, you're reading one of my books or manuscripts. There was no books at that time, there were only manuscripts from his lectures or one of the Goswami's literatures. And then you see some authority come, or something on top of it. So all that is authorized. So now we're going to be doing Guru Puja. So Srila Gurudev explained that first we offer the puja to, even if it's not his appearance day, we offer the flower. It's not that we're offering a flower, we're offering our hearts, but in the form of a flower. Guru Puja Pushpanjali, Pushpa Anjali, offering a bunch of flowers of our heart. The flower represents our heart. But as he said, it's not enough to offer garlands and prasadam. The real Vyasa Puja is to follow the instructions, read the books and follow the instructions. So in our offering of our flowers, we also pray to him to bring us to that realization and activity of being able to fully follow and become like them. As Prem Priyojana Prabhu has been mentioning on several occasions in these last few days, Horamori Atmasat, make me yours, make me like you, make me one with your heart. So, first we offer the flower to our Diksha Guru, even if it's not his appearance day. I remember Srila Gurudev would stand by the parampara and we would offer flower first to disciples of Prabhupada, first to Prabhupada, and then we walk over to him and offer them to his lotus feet, and then the rest of the parampara. So first your Diksha Guru, and then if there's some Shiksha Guru who's as close to you as your Diksha Guru, and then the person. But of course, we all know that Srila Gurudev is so close. And then we offered up the Guru Parampara. Is that correct, Prem Prajana Prabhu? Okay. I need to get my confirmation from my spiritual authority, my spiritual authorities. Okay, so we'll start, and who's going to be singing? Who's going to lead the kirtan? Would you like to? Did you want to say something? Okay. And who will be doing the arti? Jagadish Prabhu, excellent. Excellent pujari, in fact.
That's true, that's true.
And the songbooks are here.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Now listen, after we've done our individual flower offering, go to some side and off here under Bhaktivedanta. So everyone comes in from front, and then we have to wait. We'll never get finished off. First, flowers,
Preparing for Guru Puja. Vyasa Puja of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Which one?
The one with the hand of Bhagavad Maharaj is about to sing it. It's a handheld radio mic.
Radio mic. Okay. So in that case, it's probably the one that he told me to plug in if there was a problem. So I'll do that.
Hare Krishna. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vyas Puja Mahotsav ki jai. I'm ready. And the blessings of Louis Armstrong. Jai. Sri Guru Charana Padma Devalabha Kati Sadma. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Andamui Savadana Mate. Andamui Savadana Mate. Yara prasade bai e bhavatoriya Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Chitte ke goriya kya ana koriyo mane asha. Mane Prabhupada Patita Pavana Gurudeva Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Oh, Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga. Oh, Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Nityananda Pranadana Sankirtan Hare. Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Advaitara Chanda, Sankirtan Bihare. Advaitara Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Advaitara Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Oh, Jai Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Gadadhar Pranadana Nadiya Bihari. Oh, Gadadhar Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Jai Sachinandana Jaya Gaurahare. Shiva Pranadana Sankirtan Bihare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Oh, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Radha, Govinda Radha, Vinod Bihari Chuki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad, Bhaktivedanta Bhava Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad. Oh, Bhaktivedanta Bharti Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad. Bhaktivedanta Kesava Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Parasto, Tatat Sisimad. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Mahabhagavad Srila Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Saptam Goswami Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai, Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Gauri Vedanta Charya Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai, Sri Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai, Sri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Sri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Shri Sri Gaura Ramananda, Ari Gaur Pashabani ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Shri Adari Mayapur, Shri Matari Godumadi, Madadi Koladi, Dudidi Janadi, Godumadi, Dudidi Ramaka, Shri Navritam ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopal Gopika Govardhan Varsavamaka, Shri Bhaj Mandal ki jai, Shamakunda Radha Kunda Jamuna Ganga Kalasi Bhakti Devi ki jai, Vrindavaneshwari Shabaranandini, Shri Mati Radharani ki jai, Lalita Vishaka Arya Sakti Vindi ki jai, Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari Ari Manjari Vindi ki jai, Purnamasi Devi ki jai, Vrinda Devi ki jai, Gopi Swami Mahadev ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakraji ki jai, Bhakta Vigvinath Sena Singha Bhagavan ki jai, Bhakta Raj Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Shri Bhagavandra Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Atmadanga ki jai, Gantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Nityaleda Vishta Om Vishnupad, Asta Tadsat Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Avirbhav Titi Maha Mahotsav ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Ananda Gauri Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Maharaj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada Prabhu ki jai, Shri Mati Shamarani Didi ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.